Greetings, dear ones. Today in my walk, I was thinking about something and I thought let me share some insights on abuse. Now, this is not something that I'm talking from the air that just came to my mind. No, it has been very deeply ingrained in my mind. This particular topic, because this is something that I've been actively trying to help people out with. And in the past 2 years of many sessions, live sessions that I did, one was inner child healing that I did for 5 continuous days, and every single day I was like 5 to 6 hours there, interacting with people and understanding. And there, it's still there on my YouTube channel, Shifting into Awareness, that whole episode. And there we went so deep into so many aspects, and so many people got healed out of it, and they came out and they spoke all which is recorded in the comment section. It's there on the Facebook Shifting into Awareness page also. So I have been very intensively working on this subject because I have been myself once upon a time subject to abuse. We all are in some or the other ways. So, but my percentage was a little more on the emotional and physical abuse that I had in my childhood and growing years. That impacted my life very severely, and that is what we fail to see, that how these things actually do impact our life very, very seriously, and we are not even aware of it. Most of the people who want to heal out of these things are not even aware of that. So as this subject was interest of my interest, as I was traveling the past 2 weeks, I've been traveling very intensively, and in one place I just stopped, and there was some event going on about healing the inner emotions and all that stuff, all the blockages and all that. So I was curious to know how do they conduct it and what's going on, and I wanted to study. I wanted to investigate about how the process is it a new process or it is something similar that I already know. And I also wanted to go through the process and feel how it is, how the other people feel, and that's why I attended that program. And it was a beautiful program of 2 days, and almost 3 days I spent in that area. But I was astonished to see the kind of activity that happened there. Believe it or not, out of the 100%, 80% was subject to very severe abuse in their childhood. Very severe abuse. And one of the major abuse that happened was sexual abuse in their childhood. And that was such a traumatic incident for a child to hold on to. Now, what I want to say is, this is a repeated pattern. And this is a pattern where the abusers, when abuse somebody and the victim is there, so when the victim undergoes this kind of a trauma, they hold on to all these things so strongly that it becomes their personality, and they then start exhibiting similar kind of personality where they actually abuse somebody else. This has happened. I have seen this closely in my life also. How, if, for example, I am abused, I grow up, and as I am growing up, I also tend to abuse others. This is without knowledge. This is without even understanding, because the trauma is so much. They want to seek a kind of avenge, a kind of return, a give back. They have received something, now they want to give back in the same coin. And it is done very subconsciously. So when it is done subconsciously, it becomes more dirtier and more subtle, more hidden. So over a period of time, as I grew up and I attended so many variety of programs in all my life, from many masters and many places, I used to travel right from the age of 22, 23 and attend many such kind of workshops. That is because I held so much of trauma within. I knew that I had to release it. So it took me decades to actually release it. Today I can feel very free when I look around and see that so much of muck has gone, and I feel so free and relaxed. I don't say 100% healing. 100% I don't believe it happens to everybody or anybody, because those traumas or those hurts or those pains can fragment itself while during the episode or whenever it happened. It can fragment itself and bits and pieces. It's like the whole thing explodes and there are fragments littered around. So it's like, you might heal the major chunk of it, but still there are bits and pieces here and there, which I have seen in my life. I thought it's healed, but then, suddenly in my meditation or in my austerity, what I'm doing, suddenly I see that something comes up and I say, oh my God, this is coming back from 10 years back and now it's okay. So let's heal it, let's release it. And when that happens, I find that it's a completeness. So on and often, I have always had this kind of surprises where I think it has been healed, but it comes up and over. So I believe this is very natural. Once a person commits to healing and they want to clean up themselves, it's very, very common that these things can actually surface up over a period of time, and it keeps on surfacing over a period of time, and it keeps on showing up very naturally and spontaneously, allowing you to heal, provided you are ready to heal yourself from that. So all that it takes is a little commitment and a little kind of will, a strong will that you do towards healing yourself, that you actually give. You allow that to happen by giving permission to yourself. You permit yourself to be healed. So why am I talking about all this right now? Because last week I wanted to talk, but then I thought it's a very common thing and let it be. But then today I thought I must share about it, because what happened intensively, and I've seen this pattern very, very repetitive in my life. Like I told you, once I was in Himachal and spending 20 plus days there in a retreat kind of a zone where so many emotionally injured people had come, and suddenly I saw that, while we were talking, these people were sitting. I had mentioned this before. I had mentioned about a very nice girl, a very nice human being who walked up to me straight and said she wants to talk to me, and then she just blurted out that she was raped. And that was such a shock to me, because how can somebody just walk like that? But then I knew that her soul was seeking that kind of an attention and that kind of a craving to be healed. And the moment she saw somebody could give that, even a little bit of trailer kind of thing, she grabbed that opportunity. Now that is what I mean to say, that the intensity, the urge to heal oneself completely, that urge is so strong that you just give into that. And I have 100% made it a point to be around with those people who have actually had that kind of an intention. I don't do that intently. I know that it just happens spontaneously, because the law of the universe takes care of it. It's the demand and supply. Who is supposed to be there will be there, and who is supposed to take help from you will take, and whom you are supposed to take help from you take. It's a natural process if you believe in the cosmic intelligence and if you allow that thing to happen. So I've had a number of cases all my life where somehow I've attracted people with old emotional traumas, especially childhood traumas, and these kind of traumas which cannot be openly talked about. So I thought it was just a coincidence that those episodes happened. Couple of incidents happened in that manner. But then last week, as I told you, as I was attending this program, the same thing happened. The program was on. That's a different thing. But people were even sharing their experiences openly because they were encouraged to. And I was shocked to see that out of 100%, 80% had deep wounds from deep traumas from their childhood. And a majority of them, you can see at least 50% had undergone even sexual trauma from childhood. Again, out of that 50%, around 20% of them had undergone trauma of sexual abuse from their own family and close ones. And from that percentage, again, if you take 50% of that had already undergone trauma of sexual abuse from their parents. It's very shocking, but since I'm used to it, and these topics are not talked about very openly because they are very taboo kind of subjects, and they're very embarrassing, sort of very embarrassing. It makes people uncomfortable and all that. But I am telling you, the awareness should come, because in those sessions which were happening, I was just a mute witness, because I just wanted to study the whole thing that's happening there, and I was just sitting there. I had even told the instructor that I've been through these things and I just want to study, I want to be a part of it, and just want to contribute whatever I can. And she was okay with it, and that's how I spent my time there. So I was just undergoing those processes, learning how those things are to release, and these things have already been taught by my master many times, and I've done his practices, and it has helped it to a great extent. But I saw some missing links that were happening in the program, and that was the deep healing that needs to be taking place. Healing of attending to the wound first, full-fledged attention with full-fledged love and support given to the victim, with an assurance that everything is fine, everything is going to be okay, and you just want to face that incident. The healing happens when you face that incident. Whatever deep traumas are embedded inside, you bring those up. Those come up actually. You don't even have to bring up, because given the right atmosphere and environment, a little trigger, somebody out from outside, like the instructors were inducing certain kind of triggers, and that was enough for the person to come. Now what happens is, normal day life, these triggers do happen, these memories do come up, but what we do is we shelve it out. We throw it aside, and we don't want to address it because it's too painful and it's too scary, and we do not want to undergo that trauma again. So we push it down, and it remains unhealed. So these triggers are very important for active people of awareness. People who are aware will be very conscious of these kind of triggers, that they are opportunities to heal. So here was what was happening was, the triggers were being created, but many people were still running around from it. So they were encouraged not to run around, but to heal it. And how to heal it was to actually relive the incidents and give a completion to that pain, whatever was suppressed during those times. So I could see that cycle in the end was not happening. A suppression, the clearing of that emotion, many people were still very conscious of their environment, of who will think about this, and it's quite embarrassing, but some people were really bold. I met 3 of them in the sessions who were doing the sessions, but we were doing some exercise, and we were like partners. And more than these sessions inside, the therapy happened outside. I met these 3 people. 3 of them had undergone sexual abuse in their very young age, and all 3 of them were females. Now I did not talk to them, nothing, but something during the interaction and our talks, they waited for an opportunity to speak about it, and one by one just opened up in the session itself, on the first day itself, who happened to be my partner, and she just blurted out a lot of things, and she was just sobbing, because the moment she started speaking about it, I became interested in that, not as an amusement, but interested in healing that wound of hers, interesting in showing a caring aspect of myself on that, and focus on bringing that wound out. So I was like instigating that triggers again to her completely, and making her feel safe in that environment. It's safe to mention, and that is when she just puked out the whole episodes that happened with her, and she was weeping literally. And when she was weeping, I was like okay with it. I said, okay, I won't pity on that. You are not a person to be pitied upon. You are crying it out. You are healing. So cry, dump it out. So this happened, and then after the sessions, or in between the sessions, there was another lady who was waiting for me and wanted to speak, and she shared a lot of things about her mental traumas, and she was literally so cocooned by that, in a very depressive state, very depressive state, and it was like she had been years in that, unable to come out of it, absolutely. So she could not speak anything in the program, but she took opportunity and she spoke to me in one of the breaks, and there I think we stood and spoke for almost 2 hours. It was the break, the session was over in the evening, for almost 2.5 hours. We just stood there and she was just blurting out because I gave her the opportunity to vomit and she just puked out everything of her life. And I was amazed to see that, there is so much that people hold on to, so much, and so much people are wanting that attention and care and that support to help them heal. And the thing didn't end there. 2.5 hours there, then afterwards having our dinner, the talk continued pouring to late night till about 10:30. And next morning I was supposed to get up early morning 5 and meditate. I saw her waiting outside. She hadn't slept the whole night, and she continued speaking her heart out the rest of the time. And again, it was trauma, it was sexual abuse from her own family members, from her distant family members or somebody related to her. And it was repeated, one after the other, So, what I am trying to say here is, the abuse that is there, the trauma that one holds on within, only the person, the victim, so-called victim, only knows about it. It's easy to just talk about it, and it's just easy to just categorize or generalize it, but it's not that way. All these need one-to-one attention. It cannot be generalized, because I saw in the program there was so much of generalized activity taking place and nobody actually did anything there. They could not. That environment, they felt unsafe. And when they had moments with somebody whom they could share, they opened their hearts out. And my heart went out to them. And the next morning also, the whole day almost was spent in counseling. I was literally counseling and making them release and giving them solutions as to how to do that, how to actually heal yourself, how to relive those incidents in full awareness, complete awareness, and experience that emotion which has been held or suppressed for so long. Express completely, because the trauma is being caused, the disorders, the personality disorders that we have. There are so many, there are hundreds of personality disorders that we have. Do you know that? It all maximum comes from your childhood abuse. Childhood abuse begins from the home. It's not just sexual abuse, it's physical abuse, it's emotional abuse that the child undergoes right from the womb state. In the womb, it is listening and it's feeling the abuse that's happening in its outer circumstances, helpless. When it is born, after it is born, the toddler age, the infancy age, the toddlers, they undergo, because they're so dependent on their parents. They don't know anything else. They just have to take it. And for example, if their parents are narcissists are somebody who is self-occupied, only think about themselves and nothing bigger than that. Now, where did these narcissists come from? It came from their parents. They were unable to heal. It's a generational curse. I call it a generational curse. It passes from lineage to lineage, or generation to generation. It goes on from one generation to the other, until somebody becomes aware of all this nonsense and takes a vow to break this generational curse, and they break it there and they don't allow and pass it on to the further generation, to their children and their grandchildren. So it is, dear ones, it is a mighty task. It is a mighty task if you have taken this responsibility to stop this kind of nonsense that happens, so that it doesn't carry forth. So you are actually the trendsetter. You are the breaker of that trend of emotional abuse and all the personalities that comes out of that. All these narcissistic behaviors, everything comes from childhood abuse. Childhood abuse means not giving the child, not having proper attention from the family members. They have not received enough love and emotional support as they grew up. They did not have a father with them. They did not have a mother with them. Or they did not have both the parents with them. And at that time, the child was very vulnerable. It was undergoing so much of trauma. And there is no one to listen to them. That's the worst part. Because whenever the parents become available, the child cannot express. And the child loses hope in the parents. So it looks on for support, emotional love, the care, the support from outside. Then it leans on to somebody whom it knows, whom it trusts. It may be relatives, it may be friends, it may be neighbors. And that is where the abuse happens, because the trust is so much, which they do not get from the two parents. The trust is so much that they fully surrender to these other people whom they think they can rely on. Now it all depends on what kind of people are in that environment. If they notice, if somebody is an abuser and they notices the child to be a victim, because they know it's a helpless child, they know the background, because they know very much that nobody can listen to them. They cannot approach the parents, the children cannot approach the parents, because they know that disconnectivity, and that is where the abusers take their stance. So when I was talking to them, one of these ladies, she said it was her uncles. And why uncles? Why? Because the leaning for emotional support there, and those people had a certain kind of a personality disorder where they actually impose that thing onto this poor little child in the form of sexual abuse. And funnily, many people who were talking there felt like, as a child, they felt it is all okay. It's all okay. There's nothing wrong in it. Because they do not know what is good and bad, what is right and wrong. And funnily, even most of the abusers thought it was okay. Because that is the way they could express, they could transfer certain of their emotions and guilt or trauma onto this, because they have been somewhere abused in their life. So do you see, it is a menace actually going on in the society. Now India is actually looking up to these things and openly speaking about it, but otherwise it has been all suppressed. In a culture like ours, it is always suppressed, because it has got so much to do with shame and guilt and fear of so much, fear of abandonment, fear of losing someone, fear of more trauma, fear of any kind of further abuse or neglect. These are all so small things, I'm telling you, that seem so small, but it's not. So what I'm trying to tell you is, and then yes, a third lady that I met there again. Oh my God, I was shocked, because 2 days the program was over and I was just spending another day meditating and all that, and this lady walks up to me and says, I revealed something in the program. She had revealed that her father had abused her sexually, and she took the mic and she said, this should be made aware. The awareness should be brought about this, which happens right at home. Because people are not open to, because she said whenever I spoke about it, I was shut down, or nobody believed me. So all that she was yelling on the mic was believe whenever a child says about it. Especially in the family it's like horrendous, nobody can think about it. But it does happen real ones. It does happen. And then I spent almost like 5 hours with her. Just nothing, just listening. They need somebody who they can listen and simultaneously help by guiding. I was listening. I was a listener for most of the time. And then I began speaking the rest of the 1 or 2 hours continuously on how. Because she was only asking, okay, these things have been revealed here. I did a lot of practices here, but I don't think my pain has gone. It's still there. I connected the blank, fill in the blanks, and I said where it's happening, why it is happening, where and how you need to take care of these things. So if you do these things, you will get rid of it completely. And she went after those sessions, after that long number of hours, she went home relieved. And she said, I feel I'm healed by the end of that talk or session that we had. Yes, it was a compliment, because I was learning there and I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of things through this kind of an exposure. So I didn't talk about it because I thought it's not important. But today I said I should talk about this because there should be awareness on this also. I am talking more about. I put a post also today about abuse because the abuser never knows. The abuser can never agree. This has happened because all the time. Let us say their parents or their elders who have a good name or this status in the society or who are well respected. Now, when they have received that kind of a status, it becomes very difficult to even accept that I can do that because of the belief that no, I'm a perfect person. No, it really need not be, because most of the time others can see our flaws, we cannot see our own flaws. That's the biggest catch. That is why we take counseling. That is why those sessions helped, because there was somebody externally who was in awareness, a certain kind of awareness, and watching while they were sharing, and they could fill in the gaps. That is where it helped. That is where it helps. So these kind of trends which are there, I have been through it all my life. I know how it is. And we attract. We attract. That's what I'm trying to tell. We attract. If it is unhealed, if my abuse has not been healed well and I have been neglecting it, I can attract people again and again, because that is what I saw in all these three people. They said it was my friend, it was my relative, it was my family, it went on. Not one or two. Repeated kind of being cheated, being duped, being neglected, all that. Why? Because I told them it's not about the abuser. It's not about the abuser. It's about what we are emanating. Our unhealed wounds emanates these kind of vulnerabilities, which is very much sensed in the environment. People can just sense it without even, and they don't need even to be meditators. It's in the psyche. We sense it. The abuser gets attracted to the victim most of the time, very easily, or the victim goes and head on and lands up straight in the abuser's laps or arms. Right. That's the law of attraction that happens. So one has to be very, very aware of these aspects and about healing every aspect of this, because until this keeps on repeating, and this I have seen in my whole life repeating itself again and again. I've often talked about the narcissistic behavior of my father and how I have grown up without the love and support of my parents. I do not blame them, because when I become mature and when I become more aware, and when I'm learning a lot of things, I look deeply into it, I see that, poor thing, they have had a life like that. They do not even know what is all this about. But they are undergoing that kind of a trauma, and they are dealing with it. And now they passed it on to me because they don't know. That's the best way. My master used to say that your parents love you. However your parents are, they love you, and they do the best they can in their best capability. It doesn't mean that they don't love you. They love, but that's the way they know to love, because that's the only language they have understood. So if somebody is harsh and somebody is a certain way, has a certain typical personality, or somebody might be abusing, verbally abusive or emotionally abusive or even physically abusive. My father was very physically abusive. Everything he talked with his hand or a stick or a wire. Anything that did not adhere to him, it was a whip straight or a slap straight. Nothing more. No talks. The slaps did the talk for itself. But what happened? All that was very traumatic for me. It took me years to release that. Today I feel very free about it, and I feel I pat my back about it. We must pat our back. Forget about ego stuff. Pat your back. Whenever you do something like this, whenever you cut out a vicious circle of some kind of abuse that's happening in your life. It may be physical, it may be verbal, it may be mental, it may be even emotional. If you have cut out of it, pat your back. So I am proud of it. And I always share this to people, whomever I get an opportunity to talk with on these issues, to feel proud. Feel very proud that you are doing that one by one, because you don't know the kind of freedom that comes in. And when these wounds heal, finally you are able to look at the world very compassionately and share that light with the others. That's what I'm doing. I can share my light only when there is light in me. Only when those darknesses have been, flooded with light. Otherwise I cannot. Otherwise I'll only pass trauma to them. And these three incidents in my life, in just 3 days, last week, last 10 days, I had something that was very beautifully learning. More of all, it was very beautiful experience for me, because by the end of the talk with all three of them, they went back healed. I wouldn't say again fully, because I told them, you don't think that you are healed completely. There will be fragments that are shattered, like glass pieces shattered here and there. You need to work on that. So keep doing certain practices. I told them what to do that. If you do this continuously, you will heal yourself out of it. So this awareness is something, I am telling you, dear ones, there is a lot out there in this world. So much out there, but instead of focusing on the other's pain and something what I called understanding, simple understanding of somebody or somebody's pain or somebody's walk of life or journey of life, why somebody is a certain way. If a certain understanding comes, a maturity, a spiritual maturity comes in, okay, one behaves this way because their journey is that way. They are different from me. They need not be like me. Why do I expect them to be like me? Why do I want to change people like me? Why do I have that tendency of making everyone dance to my tune? Making everyone believe what I have to believe, what I have to say, what I have to think, what I have to feel, and only that is right. No, it's not right. Not necessarily. Everybody has their own way of dealing with these kind of things, and they have to deal it on their own, independently. So you cannot be dictating terms to them as to, no, not that way. You listen to me. As counselors, as healers, we cannot do that. As healers and counselors, we got to be first patient with the other one. We got to understand their journey of life. We got to wear their shoes. That is where compassion comes from. And then the healing process begins by the first statement, accept people the way they are. Until we accept somebody the way a being is, you cannot love them. I'm vouching this. I'm challenging this. Love somebody whom you cannot accept. You cannot. You can only love when you accept them totally, or when you love them fully, you can accept them totally. It's intermingled. So it's wrong to say that, I love somebody, but then I do not care about what you think or what you do or how you do, whatever. This is it. That's abuse. That's the first symptom of abuse. When somebody wants to dictate a certain term to you, it might be anybody to you. It might be even your near and dear ones. Now there is a big myth about, no, we shouldn't be good, we shouldn't be bad, we shouldn't be very open about it, we shouldn't be very honest about it, or we shouldn't reveal our expressions, we should be hiding. We should wear a mask and say that all is well, everything is fine, all is positive, only light, no darkness. I keep only focus on light. When you keep focus on light, this is what happens. Darkness takes advantage. Because you are hoping only for a light, you are looking for a hallucinating light somewhere. And you are not addressing your own issues because you don't have the courage to look into the darkness of your own self. Because of the myth that, no, we got to be optimistic. We got to only think positive. Think positive, that's good, because you know the law of attraction. If you think, you focus on positive, but that doesn't mean you should not address your issues. If you cannot address your issues, you cannot heal. That is why I'm telling you, many people I've seen years of what all they do, but after years they still say, I'm not healed. It's not happened. Why? Because you have never been told, face your darkness. Sit with your darkness. Be comfortable to sit with your darkness, because you are not sitting with the darkness and playing and getting drowned in it. Then that's not a spiritual person. A spiritual person who is aware, who knows that the power that they have, the power that they receive from the cosmic, the power that they receive from their gurus, their masters, the powers that they receive from the mandala. Where is all that powers if you're going to get drowned in the darkness, in the fear of darkness? You got to sit with it, and what is supporting you are those energies. So if you have the fear of drowning, either you are simply saying you are not connected to those energies or to those dimensions or to your guru or the mandala, or you don't trust them enough that you can actually enter this dirty pool. So my thinking is a little different, and I beg to differ from the various systems of how they have been working. I beg to differ, because it's not, many things have not worked for me in that way. What works for me, I put it on people and it works for them, and when it works for them, I know it is working. And from that conviction, I'm talking this. I'm not talking this just giving a lecture here or just professing something. It's not. I'm talking from real experiences from my real life and from the life of many, not one, two, so many. One incident, and not just this. Before also I told you. So this all comes because of our neglect on these aspects. We should be open enough, bold enough to face our own traumas and come out with it and be open with it. You need not open it up. I'm not telling open it up to the social media, nothing. But open it up to the probable, possible avenues that are made for that. There are so many avenues. If you want, those avenues will appear. Why? You might say, no, I have never got anybody whom I can talk to. It is your inner will. If you want it, there is a demand and supply always in the universe. You want it, it shall appear before you. You want to truly be healed, there will be healers that will come to you. Somewhere. You might be just walking on the road and you might meet somebody, or an incident might happen, or you might see a program, or you might read an article, or you might suddenly see a video, something that heals you spontaneously. So our soul should be open to this continuous process of healing. It's not just 1 hour of meditation in the morning that I do and then I forget about it. It's living life in total awareness in the meditation and out of the meditation. You are walking in total awareness, and this is what happens. What I'm trying to share with you. This is what happens when you walk in awareness. You catch on with those people whom you are ready to help, because if you have the capacity to help, you help. That is how the whole world is exchanging the services of each other. Okay. And why this thing happens, why this thing very easily happens, is because during the childhood, the parents are unavailable, the relatives are unavailable, or somebody, the guardian is unavailable, and it brings a deep wound to the child, because they know that nobody is available. Especially if a trauma happens and then they are not even able to tell that to somebody. And most worse is, even if they tell that to somebody, nobody believes them, or they are still hit back on that. So imagine these people, when I talk to them, they could not share it with anybody. They have not shared it with and they are all living with married and having children, grown-up children and all, that kind of state, and they are unable to talk to anybody. They have not talked to their spouses, their children. It's impossible. And imagine the whole life they have carried that trauma within themselves, and they do not know it was wrong until something kept pondering in their lives again and again. Some repeated cycles, some traumatic incidents, some stages of depression and wound and uneasiness, and something that bound their soul. They were not knowing, and when they put a little light into that, they came to know that they need healing. That is when they set out on this journey of healing, so late, but nevertheless so late. They just set out and they began their journey. Imagine 40 years, 30 years, 50 years of neglect and carrying that wound, what will happen to that soul? So this can be avoided. This can be very much avoided. I'm making this video in for the awareness purpose also. If you give attention, please again I'm telling you, especially parents, do not overlook these things. Do not take everything as beautiful, all is well stuff. Be aware, live in awareness. Look at your child, look at the environment around in awareness. Be completely aware of what's happening. Be available to your children. If your children are seeking some kind of help, the thing should not go to there. Understand, the episodes happen only when you are not there for them. Only then can somebody sneak into their life and dare to do this. So you have to be fully available for them firstly. If you're not available for them, it's very difficult. So first thing is be available for them and be aware. Whoever it is. I'm not telling have a mistrust, but trust everybody in the family, trust everybody in your relatives, everybody in your neighborhood, and it's all fine, but keep a watch. Be aware. Be aware that there are such things that happen, and it can happen to anybody. So that is the first step of healing, where you can stop this generational curses, first by healing yourself if you have been undergoing such stuff, and second is by being aware of your environment and being aware of the family that you're upbringing. Be there for them. I'm telling from my own life incident how deep these wounds can make a different personality out of me. Like for example, when I was very badly abused emotionally and physically by my parent, in his unaware state, but the trauma was very deep for me. I carried it almost into my adulthood, and I was unable to release it. And what happened was, I saw the same patterns where I was inflicting wounds. I was inflicting the same kind of abuse on somebody else. The victims were easily found. Anybody can be the victim. Anybody who is vulnerable is a victim. Anybody with a yes sir attitude is a victim. Anybody who is inferior to you is a victim, because there are all chances of a victimhood there. And I have repeated, I have done that kind of repeated abuse to them. What came to me from my people, what was stored in me, because I believe this is the way you live life. This is normal. It's normal to be that way. So I wouldn't think twice to hurt somebody emotionally or even physically. I've bullied children in my school days and all that. I've literally bullied them, because I felt being bullied is the way to live life. As a child, I grew up with that kind of tendencies. It took me, I'm telling you, it took me so many years. And later, as I grew up and I became spiritually awakened, the kind of guilt that came into me. That I'm a bad person, I've sinned, I shouldn't do this. I've been eviled, I've hurt so many people, and it shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't have done that. But then, when the healing process began, I began to settle down with myself and saying, it's okay, dear one. You are actually nurturing yourself. You are actually reparenting yourself and saying, it's okay, dear one. You went through this. I am there for you. I who? The higher self is looking down on the lower self and telling, okay, I am there for you. And whatever happens here, I am there for you, and I will support you completely. And if I am there to support you, I am there to heal you. And the deep little child within us listens to it, and it takes all that efforts and help that it wants from the higher self. And that is a process where I actually began healing. All the process of healing, I was there with myself. That is the biggest healing that you can do. The biggest healers are those who can sit with themselves and heal their little wounded inner being that has been wounded for so many decades. And slowly, as the wounds left off, those traits, those personality traits also went one by one. So it's very important, before we heal others, before we dictate terms to others, before we preach to others, we teach others, you heal the innermost personality disorders that I have. For that, I have to first accept that I have some kind of a trait. If I don't accept, if I am an all perfect being, I will end up being abusive to many, in many ways. And I'm telling you, abuse doesn't just mean something that is physical or something that is very sexual or something that is very horrendous or something very painful. It can be through anyway. It can be through in disguise. I've seen this. It disguises itself in many kind of manipulation, many kind of control. You like to manipulate people, you like to control people, you like to make people understand through many kind of like blackmail, emotional blackmailing. You punish. You love to punish people in very subtle ways. I have seen these kind of behaviors coming to me also from many people around, because when I become aware, the first thing that I observe is these patterns. So when I don't listen to somebody and I don't pay attention to what they have to say for whatever reasons, I have my own justified reasons. So when I don't do that, I can see a kind of reaction coming from that. And the reaction is abandonment, isolation. These are all technical terms that I've learned now in this process of healing, but it is. We isolate the person, we abandon the person, we don't talk to that person. I've seen suddenly when people are very nicely talking and everything and they want something out of you and you don't give it back to them, then suddenly there is a disconnect in talking. It might be even the chats. There is no response. For days or even weeks, there is no response. You try communicating with them, there is no. It's a disconnect. It means it's an isolation. It's an abandonment. It is a kind of punishment. Punishment for what? For not listening to what they have to say or not adhering to what they have to. These are control tactics in disguise. We have to become aware of this. I'm telling you, no one is going to tell us all these things. No one. And if no one tells us, we might not even be aware. We might move with these traits our whole life. So why is it that we want to control others? And this happens, I'm telling you, you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. As parenting, in the parenting this happens. This abandonment and isolation, it happens. Your child doesn't listen to you, you punish. You look at it. How do you punish? You beat it. If you say, no, I'm not abusive, I'm not violent, I'm a very mature parent, then you can opt to some other tactic. You can go into a mental abuse or a emotion. You can be sarcastic, you can be taunting all the time, sarcastically, and shaming that personality, that little being. You're not good for anything, or you don't do this, you don't deserve to be here, look at that, or comparing to others. Look at that child, look at this one, and where are you? What are you doing exactly? This is not what you're supposed to do. And then you shame the child. You put guilt. That is one of the biggest problem, that we put guilt into somebody's head. And putting guilt into a child's head, no, don't do that. It's horrendous. They carry it for lifetimes. I'm telling you, it's very, very difficult for children to release all this, because they are like sponge. They just absorb whatever you do to them. And even as adults, then if we are not healed as children, we grow up into adults and then we induce guilt into others. We look around. Somebody is not paying attention to us, somebody is not giving enough attention to us, somebody is not in our way of living, somebody is not adhering to what I have to say or what I feel or what I believe. And then I get into these tactics of all this, including abandonment, inducing guilt. So I try to make them guilty then. All the time I'm in some way or the other. There is an obsession, there is a deep obsession with conveying this forceful tactic in hook or crook. In this way or that way, physical or mental or emotional or spiritually, whatever. Always I tried to put guilt into someone. You are doing wrong. Straight tell somebody you are doing wrong. And imagine if the person is vulnerable person or a weakling or somebody who is like, somebody who's had a lot of belief in fear, always fear, a God fearing person, a karma fearing person. It's very easy to put guilt into them. You say, this will happen to you, that will happen to you, or God will punish you, and all these systems. You can link to that. That is why where religions can exploit you, with the greed of reward and the fear of punishment. These are all control tactics. We have to understand this. We have to become more aware of this within us and outside. Not just outside. It's not enough that we become aware of these things outside. First, we become aware inside. That is what will lead to the outside. So, inducing these kind of guilts, inducing abandoning. The children are abandoned. They don't listen to you. Okay, no food for you. There's a punishment. Or no outing for you, no excursion for you, no picnic for you, or no bicycle for you, which I had promised that I will get you, or no gifts for you. Or they listen to you, you give them gifts, you give them a chocolate. If you do this, I'll give you this. This is the greed of reward that you are putting into them. For anything to do good, you will always have to bribe them. This is wrong. Or you put fear into them, fear of punishment, fear of some pain, some guilt, some neglect. Suppose the child is very dependent on you, fully dependent on you. Then what you do? The parent can read it. What is their weakness? That is why I say abusers know the weakness of their victim and they catch on from there. So what they do is, they first, if the child is very attached to the parent and the child does not listen, so what the parent does is abandonment. You abandon them. You lock them in the room and go. I am abandoning you. Or you send them away to a relative's place. I abandon you. You stay there. Or you put them into the boarding hostel. You stay there. Abandonment. Kind of punishment. For not being a good child. Or isolation. Just disconnect with them. They are feeding for your love and attention. They are so dependent on you. And as very wise parents, we neglect. So, we have been talking nice to them and everything, and they don't listen to us. Suddenly we stop talking to them. And the child is like, Mama, Papa, running behind them for attention. And then you don't care. You treat them till they feel guilty about it. And they come and say sorry to you. Narcissistic behavior this is. Might not be very aggressive narcissistic, but it is to a certain tendency narcissistic, because it is a kind of manipulative behavior. We must agree to this first, that we can be this. Then only the healing can take place. First, we got to get healed. Then our children. Why we fail is, first we try to heal the children because we see all their flaws. We try to heal others, everybody in the world. We want to change everybody else. We are like big healers. We want to heal everybody except myself. And that is the biggest trauma, because I am emanating trauma to others. There's no point. On one hand, I am putting filth all around. On the other hand, I am cleaning it. What big deal? If I say I am a cleaner, I am cleaning up the mess from one place. But on the other hand, I am filling up the mess. Are you getting it? This is the catch that we got to be fully aware as parents, as adults. Then only we can heal our generations, our families, our societies, our world. So this awareness is very important, dear ones. If you feel connected to this, and if you feel that this has been an important message, please do share your valuable inputs here and your insights here and your suggestions or feedbacks or comments, whatever you want to leave, you leave. And you are free to write to me also through the channels here. But I hope this session was helpful to you. So with this, I end this video, and with lots of divine love and light. Stay blessed. Gurudev Sharana, Guru Mandala Sharana. It's all the gift of the Masters that the light of awareness has been kindled in us, and we spread that light of awareness to the whole world. If I feel I've missed out anything in this video, I shall come out with another video later. Until then, stay blessed. Lots of love.